Well, right now the community is mourning the death of an Atlanta club owner.
Sharell Canty was shot and killed over the holiday weekend in Gwinnett County. We're told Canty was the co-owner of Opium and is well known in Atlanta's nightlife scene, having been around for some time. Police responded to the Dove Lake neighborhood in unincorporated Grayson Sunday, where they found Canty dead. Warrants reveal Canty had been shot twice in the head.
Sharell was a people person. Everybody loved her. Everybody respected her. Everybody wanted to be around Sharell. Sharell's about her business. Sharell put everybody in a position to win with her. She took everybody to the top with her, including me. Never in a million years would I have thought that would have happened to her. Like I said, she was a respectable person. Everybody loved her, so I can't question God's plan. She knew how to run a business. She knew what to do to keep the business going. She had great partners. She had great staff. It just wasn't believable. Hard.
A Sunday morning in a quiet Georgia neighborhood. A neighbor comes home, walks inside, and finds a body. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. The victim, a beloved Atlanta nightclub owner, known for her energy, her success, and the way she made everyone feel seen. The suspect, not a stranger. Someone who knew her intimately. Someone who once promised to love her. But what happened inside that house between the first shot and the second? That's where the psychology gets dark. That's what we're about to unravel. Because when the person accused of pulling the trigger isn't a stranger, isn't an ex who faded into memory, but someone who once stood at an altar and made promises, the psychological puzzle deepens. How does someone go from sharing a life with another person to ending it? And more importantly, how do we miss the signs while it's happening? Before we get into the psychology of what happened inside that house, I want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you to everyone who has been commenting on our past episodes. Your insights, your personal stories, and your willingness to engage with these difficult cases are exactly why this channel exists. So keep those comments coming, and if you're new here, welcome. You've just joined a community that believes true crime analysis should be about psychology, not sensationalism. That said, hit that subscribe button right now on True Crime Unravelled on YouTube. And while you're at it, go follow True Crime Unravelled TV on Facebook and Instagram. We post case updates, behind the scenes content, and exclusive community polls you won't see anywhere else. Tap the bell, turn on notifications, and let's get into the mind of this offender. Psychologists who study intimate partner violence have identified a process that happens long before any physical violence occurs. It's called moral disengagement, the psychological mechanism by which a person convinces themselves that harm they cause is justified. The victim becomes the villain in their own story. Blame shifts, consequences shrink, and once that switch flips, restraint disappears. The person who once loved you begins to see you not as a partner, but as a problem that needs to be solved. But here's where the science gets complicated. Moral disengagement doesn't happen in a vacuum. It feeds on something else, something that makes cases like this almost impossible to predict until it's too late. To understand how this works in real life, we need to look at what happened in a quiet Georgia suburb on the morning of May 24th, 2026. The neighborhood on Wilkerson Way in Grayson, Georgia, is the kind of place people move to specifically to escape chaos. One neighbor described it as small, quaint, and peaceful. People walk their dogs. Children play outside. The call volume in that area, according to police, is fairly benign. So when a neighbor came home on that Sunday morning and saw police cars, an ambulance, and yellow crime scene tape wrapped around a house, she ran straight inside to get her mother. Nothing like this happens in this area, she told reporters. We just couldn't believe that something like this was happening.
Police tell us that a woman was found shot inside this home here behind me on Sunday morning along Wilkerson Way. Police tell us that one person is in custody. A quiet neighborhood in Grayson turned into an active crime scene on Sunday afternoon.
When I got closer, all I saw was a bunch of police cars surrounded the area and an ambulance and then yellow tape on the house. It was really just a crazy situation.
I was frightened because I didn't know what was going on. Nothing like this happens in this area.
Police say they are investigating a domestic homicide. On Sunday afternoon, we saw investigators taking large bags out of the home. We also saw a white car being towed away from the house.
And anybody would be, scared or surprised, by something like that.
As police left the scene, we saw a group of people praying outside the home. Neighbors and police say that this is a quiet neighborhood that normally doesn't have any trouble.
Generally, our call volume in this area is fairly benign. We really don't have a lot of death calls in this area.
It's quiet. It's very, very quiet. Everybody mind their business. They walk their dogs. The kids play.
Police say this homicide is an isolated incident. They say right now there is no threat to the public.
We were surprised because this area is so small and so quaint and quiet, so just couldn't believe that something like this was happening.
What happened was this. A 44-year-old woman named Sharell Canty had been found dead inside that home. She had been shot twice in the head. The neighbor who discovered her body called police at 8:42 a.m. When officers arrived, they found no signs of a struggle that would suggest a random intrusion. What they found instead pointed them down a much narrower path of investigation. Sharell Canty was not an anonymous victim. In Atlanta's nightlife scene, she was a force. She was the co-owner of Opium Nightclub, a promoter, a connector, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately changed its energy. Friend and colleague Tajai Henry put it this way: Sharell has her own aura. When she walks into a club, everybody knows Sharell's here. She helped shape Atlanta's nightlife culture for years. She knew how to run a business, how to keep it going, how to bring people together. Friends described her as a big sister without the blood.
The Atlanta nightclub community is mourning the loss of Sharell Canty. I spoke to one of her close friends and co-workers here at Opium. She tells me Sharell was the owner here and a staple in the city of Atlanta.
I mean, she's the owner of one of the hottest clubs in Atlanta, one of the biggest clubs in Atlanta. I mean, that speaks for itself. To have a club that is still standing amongst all the other clubs that unfortunately are not with us no more, for Opium to be here, that means Sharell ran it right. That means Sharell knew the logistics, she knew how to run a business, she knew what to do to keep the business going. She had great partners, she had great staff, she just had people in the place that helped her align the business and take it to the top, and that's exactly what we're going to keep doing. For a home, she bought a party, she created the vibes. Like, it's just something that Sharell has her own aura, and when she walks into a club, everybody knows Sharell's here, and they know to bring out her Zool, bring out her Don Repos, and we're gonna have a ball. Play her music, play her R&B, play her Jeezy, we're gonna have a ball.
Former WNBA player Tamara Young, who played for the Atlanta Dream, took to Facebook with an emotional tribute. "This feels like a sick dream," she wrote. "You were a real one, a good one, a heart of gold. You wanted people to be happy and enjoy themselves." Young revealed that she and Canty had shared dinner together shortly before the tragedy. Family members poured out their grief online as well. Reese Butler wrote from what could only be described as a place of complete devastation, "My heart is completely broken. A few days ago, we lost my beautiful sister Sharell, and life hasn't felt the same since. She wasn't just my sister, she was a light to everyone who knew her. A successful club owner, a boss, a leader. But more than anything, she was love in human form. Sharell would give you her last, the shirt off her back, and never ask for anything in return." Her cousin, Jamal Carroll, wrote, "Sharell, I am still trying to come to terms with the news of your passing. It feels like a nightmare that I wish I could wake up from. Not my cousin. The thought of never seeing you again, never hugging you again, is almost too much to bear. You were more than just a cousin to me. You were a role model, a source of inspiration, and a reminder that with hard work and determination, anything is possible." Cousin Aletha Hazel Bonner added, "I have been sitting here all day trying to wrap my head around the devastating news that our family received today. My precious baby Sharell was killed. I asked God how. Why? The tears just won't stop flowing knowing she was robbed of her life with so much more that she had planned to offer this world. That word, robbed, appears again and again in the tributes. Because what became clear within hours of the investigation was that Sharell Canty's death was not random. It was not a burglary gone wrong. It was not a stranger's act of violence. Gwinnett County Police identified the suspect quickly. Her name is Stephanie Byram. She is 48 years old, and she is Sharell Canty's ex-wife. On the surface, Stephanie Byram was the picture of professional respectability. She was a licensed real estate agent operating in Gwinnett County, affiliated with ERA Sunrise Realty and the Chavon Philpott Realty Group. On her professional profile, she described herself as one of Georgia's premier real estate consultants, someone dedicated to working tirelessly for her clients. She was the kind of person neighbors waved at in the driveway, the kind of person nobody looked at twice. But behind that professional facade, something had gone terribly wrong. Police confirmed that Sharell and Stephanie had been married. At some point, that marriage ended in divorce. But clearly, something between them did not end. Because on the morning of May 24th, Stephanie Byram was in that house on Wilkerson Way. And Sharell Canty never walked out. Byram was taken into custody on Monday, May 25th, the very next day after Sharell's body was found. The charges were severe: malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. In Georgia, malice murder means prosecutors are alleging this was not an accident. It was not a heat-of-the-moment loss of control. It was intentional, deliberate, planned. Now let's apply what we know about moral disengagement to what actually happened inside that relationship and that home. Here is what behavioral analysis reveals about cases like this. When a relationship ends, particularly a marriage, the psychological adjustment process varies dramatically between individuals. Most people grieve, process, and eventually move forward. But for some, the end of a relationship triggers something closer to identity collapse. The ex-partner is no longer just someone they used to love. They become the source of all their pain. And in the mind of someone already primed for moral disengagement, that transformation justifies almost anything. Court records and police statements have not yet revealed a specific motive. Investigators have not disclosed whether there was a documented history of domestic violence between the two women. But the nature of the charges, malice murder specifically, suggests that investigators believe Byram made a conscious decision to end Sharell's life. Shooting someone twice in the head is not a reflexive action. It requires aim. It requires follow-through. It requires the shooter to look at the victim's face, pull the trigger, assess, and pull the trigger again. That sequence of actions reveals something critical about the offender's mental state. This was not a person who snapped in the way that phrase is commonly used. Snapping implies a single, uncontrollable moment of rage followed by immediate regret. But shooting someone twice in the head requires intentionality between the first and second shot. In those seconds, a person who was acting purely on impulse would have stopped. The fact that Byram did not stop suggests that her mind had already completed the process of justification before she ever picked up the weapon. Psychologists call this cognitive restructuring. The offender reframes the violence as necessary, deserved, or inevitable. She made me do it. I had no choice. She pushed me to this point. After the shooting, offenders in domestic homicides often express what appears to be remorse, but closer examination reveals something else. Regret about the consequences for themselves, not genuine acknowledgement of the victim's humanity. We do not yet know what Byram said to police after her arrest. But if her case follows patterns seen in similar domestic homicides, the justification was likely already constructed before the first shot was fired. Here is where the science falls short, and this is crucial to acknowledge. Moral disengagement explains how an offender justifies violence after the fact. It explains the psychological architecture that allows someone to pull the trigger on a person they once loved, but it does not predict who will actually commit murder. Thousands of people go through painful divorces. Thousands of people experience the same psychological distortions, the blame shifting, the victim blaming, the sense of righteous anger. And the vast majority of them never kill anyone. Behavioral science can describe patterns across populations. It cannot diagnose individuals. That is a limit we must never forget when analyzing cases like this. We can look at Stephanie Byram's actions, the divorce, the apparent inability to separate, the presence at the home on that morning, the weapon, the 2 shots, and we can say these fit a pattern of intimate partner homicide. But we cannot say with certainty what was happening in her mind in the months and weeks leading up to May 24th. We cannot say whether investigators or family members missed warning signs because we do not yet know what those warning signs looked like or whether they existed at all. What remains unknown about Byram's psychology is significant. Did she have a history of controlling behavior during the marriage? Had there been prior incidents of threats or intimidation? Did friends or family members notice anything unusual in the aftermath of the divorce? These questions are not yet answered, and until they are, any psychological analysis remains incomplete. But here is what we do know, and what this case teaches us about the nature of domestic violence. The most dangerous time for a victim is often not during the relationship itself. It is during separation and after the relationship has ended. Leaving does not always mean safety. In fact, research consistently shows that the period immediately following separation is when intimate partner homicide risk spikes. The abuser loses control over the victim, and for someone whose identity is built on that control, the loss can feel like annihilation. Violence becomes a way to restore the old order, or to ensure that if they cannot have the victim, no one can. Sharell Canty was thriving publicly. Her career was alive. Her community loved her. She was building something beautiful in Atlanta's nightlife scene. Her legacy of love, kindness, and strength will live on through all of us who were blessed to know her. Her cousin Jamal spoke of her as a role model and a source of inspiration. And none of that protected her from what happened in that house on Wilkerson Way. What this case teaches us is that domestic violence does not care about success, visibility, or community support. It operates behind closed doors. It hides behind professional facades and quiet neighborhoods. And it often escalates not during the relationship, but after the relationship has officially ended. The psychological framework of moral disengagement helps us understand how someone justifies the unjustifiable, but it does not give us a crystal ball. The question we leave you with is this. If someone you loved was in a relationship that had ended, but the other person refused to truly let go, refused to accept the end, would you recognize the difference between heartbreak and danger? Because in the case of Sharell Canty, those two things looked almost identical from the outside, and distinguishing between them might have been the only thing that could have saved her life. What do you think happened inside that house? What do you believe the motive was? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're watching this and you recognize these patterns in your own life or in someone you love, please reach out. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day. Sharell deserved more time, and so do you. Before we close this episode, I want to say something directly to you. Every week, you show up in the comments with perspectives that make these cases richer, deeper, and more human. You share your own experiences. You ask hard questions. You push back when the analysis doesn't sit right. That's not just engagement, that's accountability. And we am genuinely grateful for it. So thank you. Thank you for watching, for commenting, and for helping True Crime Unravelled grow into a space where criminal psychology meets real conversation. Now here's what I need from you tonight. Drop a comment below with your answer to that final question. Would you recognize the difference between heartbreak and danger if you saw it in someone you love? Tell me what you think the motive was in this case. Tell me what warning signs, if any, you believe were missed. And if you have a case you want us to profile through a psychological lens, put it in the comments. While you're there, make sure you subscribe to True Crime Unravelled on YouTube. Then head over to True Crime Unravelled TV on Facebook and Instagram. Follow both pages, turn on your notifications, and join the conversation there as well. We post exclusive content on every case, including documents, timelines, and community discussions that don't make it into the episodes. Keep commenting, keep questioning, and most importantly, stay aware.
At 11, brand new details after a popular Atlanta nightclub owner is found shot to death in Gwinnett County. Tonight, a close friend is speaking out. Good evening and thanks for watching and streaming 11 Alive. I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Jennifer Bellamy. We begin tonight in Atlanta where friends, family, and business partners are mourning the loss of a well-known figure in the city's nightlife scene. Gwinnett County Police say they found 44-year-old Sharell Canty dead Sunday morning at a home on Wilkerson Way in Grayson, about 35 miles northeast of Atlanta. Tonight, police are calling this a domestic violence-related homicide, charging 48-year-old Stephanie Byram with malice murder in Canty's death.
11 Alive's Angelina Salcedo was live tonight from the Opium Nightclub in downtown Atlanta. So, Angelina, friends and co-workers say Canty was a staple in the city's entertainment scene, right?
And if there's one thing that was clear tonight, it's that she was extremely loved by those who viewed her as someone who was close to them, family and friends. They say she helped build Atlanta's nightclub life over the last several years. Tonight, they are in mourning while Gwinnett County Police investigate her death.
Play her music, play her R&B, play her Jeezy.
Friends say Sharell Canty brought every party to life.
Sharell has her own aura, and when she walks into a club, everybody knows Sharell's here. And they know to bring out her Zool, bring out her Don Repos, and we're going to have a ball.
Known to many as the co-owner of Atlanta's Opium Nightclub, they say she was a staple in the city's nightlife community.
She knew how to run a business. She knew what to do to keep the business going. She had great partners. She had great staff.
But now police say Canty's life was cut short. Gwinnett County Police say officers were called to a home on Wilkerson Way in Grayson Sunday morning after a neighbor reported a person dead. Investigators later identified the victim as 44-year-old Canty.
It just wasn't believable. Hard.
Detectives say 48-year-old Stephanie Byram pulled the trigger, charging her with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. In arrest warrants, investigators say Byram shot Canty twice in the head.
We're all just mourning right now. We're all missing our sister, missing our friend, missing Sharell.
Tajay Henry says she worked alongside Canty at Opium for years.
For Opium to be here, that means Sharell ran it right. She just had people in the place that helped her align the business and take it to the top.
As friends try to process her death, they say her legacy within Atlanta's nightlife scene won't be forgotten.
Sharell going to tell us to party and ball like she's still here. We're going to keep her legacy alive. We're going to keep Opium alive.
Keeping Opium alive was the main takeaway from her and, of course, her family and friends as well. Now, Gwinnett County Police do say that this was an isolated incident. There is no threat to the public tonight. The woman that they say is responsible is still being held in the Gwinnett County jail tonight. We're live in Atlanta outside Opium. Angelina Salcedo, 11 Alive News.
Well, Deidre Sharell, she was the co-owner of this club here behind me, Opium, along Brady Avenue. I spoke to her friends today who told me that they are shocked and devastated by this tragic loss.
On Sunday, Gwinnett County Police say 44-year-old Sharell Canty was killed in a home in Grayson. Sharell was the co-owner of Opium Nightclub and the life of the party.
Sharell was that girl. Sharell was a people person. Everybody loved her. Everybody respected her. Everybody wanted to be around Sharell.
Police have accused 48-year-old Stephanie Byram of killing Canty. She faces several charges, including felony murder, malice murder, and aggravated assault. Investigators say it's a domestic-related homicide. Tajay Henry is the manager of the nightclub and a close friend of Sharell.
Sharell's about her business. Sharell put everybody in a position to win with her. She took everybody to the top with her, including me. Never in a million years would I have thought that would happen to her. Like I said, she was a respectable person. Everybody loved her, so I can't question God's plan.
Henry says everyone is still trying to process what happened. She says the nightclub is like a family, and they are trying to support one another through this tragedy.
It's definitely hard on the staff, but we are our family. We're gonna stay a family. Kevin, the other owner, he's very supportive. He helps us. He texts us every day to make sure that we're doing okay, if we need anything.
She says they will try to make Sharell proud and keep her memory alive.
We're going to keep her legacy alive. That's all we have. That's all we have to do. Just keep the legacy going, keep Opium going, and make her proud from the skies. If Sharell was here, she would want us to continue. She would want us to continue the legacy. She would want us to continue with Opium. That was her baby.
And the woman accused of killing Sharell is still in the Gwinnett County Jail. Reporting live in Atlanta, Tara Jabor, Fox 5 News.
Terrible.